If you've seen this movie, we would love to hear from you because no one else out there is talking about it.
I think this movie is ripe for a remake.
I had never even heard of this movie.
This entire cast is great.
I can't believe I'm hate watching this.
It is a check your brain at the door movie.
There's really big gaps in logic.
The performances seem stiff.
That wig does not work.
Insanely stupid.
This screenplay sucks.
It scared the crap out of me.
Of course he's possessed. He's got white makeup.
Orgy of the blood parasites. Why would you not go with that type?
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Hello, and welcome out there in podcast and YouTube land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, a podcast and YouTube network where we talk about horror movies, science fiction movies, sometimes fantasy, sometimes suspense or intrigue films, key elements in the particular topic of the week, and then things that topic may have influenced going forward. We've been doing it for quite a long time. If you're new to us, we'd love to say hi. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Leave us a comment down below or subscribe or click the little like button, all of that stuff. And let us know how you heard about us or how you found us. We'd love to find out. If you're returning, welcome back. You've been here before. You know that Tim and I have been doing this for quite a long time. As he is oft to say, we've been talking movies probably all of our entire lives, for at least a century now. We're totally unscripted, so I don't know what he's going to say. He doesn't know what I'm going to say. Sometimes we jibber jabber, but that's what it is. Tim, what have you been doing? How you been?
Me duele la cabeza.
Sometimes it's not even English.
You don't know what I'm going to say, huh? Oh my gosh, yes, it is. We're going to be talking about a little bit of a chilly movie, and it's a little cold, so we need an icebreaker, and we usually do. Look at me segueing into my genre week.
Segue into segue. That's nice.
Oh my goodness. So I got around to watching a little mini series. I think it was a mini series. Yeah, it was like 2 episodes maybe. No, it was a movie. It's been a couple of weeks since I watched it, but I got around to watching Salem's Lot, the new one.
The new one.
Yeah.
There's a new one?
Yeah. Don't you remember? It took forever to get released. It was made back, God, maybe back when COVID was around, and then it was going to come to theaters, and it wasn't going to come to theaters, and it just kind of bounced around and finally landed on HBO Max.
Oh, I do think I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it came out in 2024, but I'm pretty sure we were talking about it in 2022.
Yep, I think you're right.
Yeah. Anyway, I got around to watching it because I watch everything I can that's Stephen King, and man, this movie has problems. Pacing, namely, it's less than 2 hours, and it needs to be much longer because you know how that book plays out. It's all about the characters in that town, and you can't really get to know people in 2 hours. Not that well, anyway.
Taking place with vampires, right? So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was written and directed by Gary Dauberman. He is known for the Annabelle movies and is a James Wan protege. I'm not impressed, although there are some pretty cool moments. It's just not a good movie. The cast is decent. I don't even mind some of the choices they made. Mark and Dr. Coy. Who is Dr. Coy? Maybe my notes are screwed up. I don't remember the name being Coy. Anyway, Mark and the doctor are both African American, and the doctor is Alfred Woodard. That's fine. I didn't have a problem with that at all. Louis Pullman is Ben. Now, Louis Pullman was not that big at the time, but he's starting to get big. That's Bill Pullman's son. A synopsis is, as Arthur Ben Mears returns to his childhood home of Jerusalem's Lot, Maine, seeking inspiration for his new book, only to discover the community is being preyed upon by an ancient vampire named Kurt Barlow. This movie gets 46 on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's territorial pissing. You've heard me use that phrase before. It's an old Nirvana song where for instance, if you work for a company and all of a sudden you get new people up in corporate and they want to change everything and make everything better and better, and then they move on to another job and you're left with all the things falling apart that they fucked up. And to me, this is him saying, hey, I can do Salem's Lot better. And no, so far, no one has done Salem a lot better. I've seen two other versions besides the Tobe Hooper version, and none of them are better. And the Tobe Hooper one's not perfect. Why change things? Just do the damn story. They do set it in 1975, which was interesting and worked as far as cell phones are concerned, and computers. So that was fine. I was fine with the time change. I was fine with some of the diversity in casting. I just wasn't fine with the pacing or the script or anything else. So that's my take on it.
It's really interesting. I probably need to reread that novel because I have not read it probably in a good, probably 15 years, maybe
Wow.
15, 20 years.
Yeah, I read it a couple of years ago. I've read it 5 or 6 times.
And it's one of my favorites. I've read it overall probably 3 or 4 times, but because I remember that paperback, if I found it around here, I'm sure it's all dog-eared and yellowed and everything because I've reread it over and over. I love it.
If you picked it up now, the print would be too small for you to see.
I can't. What is this? But yeah, that's sad. It's sad that something that you don't, I think your territorial pissing thing is very true, that you don't trust what you have. That happens a lot with boards too, nonprofit boards, where you get new people come in and they want to change everything. And they don't trust the people who have been there for literally 4, 8, 10, 12 years saying, this is the best way for it to work. And they go, oh no, we're going to totally reinvent the wheel. We're going to do it this way now. I say, okay. And then you're burnt out in 6 months, you quit, and I'm stuck with all these new changes you made.
Yeah.
So yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but if someone ever redid this again, they probably should just do a limited series of about 6 or 8 episodes, like they did the Welcome to Derry or whatever. And they got a shit ton of stuff in that movie, that miniseries. That thing is the exact opposite. It's a little overboard.
Combining everything. But yeah. My genre icebreaker topic of the week, I'm not going to talk very long about it because I really want to add it to our list. I've been jonesing for this movie for 7 months now or whatever. But I finally watched Project Hail Mary.
Okay.
And I think it's the opposite of what you just said. It's a really great adaptation of the source material. Me being me, I do have my I wish they had have, but the only moderate changes they made to it work. And I think that's because the author, Andy Weir, was actually on set, I found out, almost every day. So he was involved a great deal, which is unheard of for a writer.
It is very unheard of. Writers are usually banished from sets.
Oh, yeah. But he handpicked the screenwriter, who is the same one that did The Martian, Drew Goddard. Okay. And he had casting input, he had design input, he had all this, which is great and really good. And you can see I do hope that this movie isn't forgotten come Oscar time in a few months when they start doing nominations, because it was so early. It came out in February,
Spring.
March. And I hope that, especially from a screenplay and a performance and a design, art direction, everything else perspective, it's not forgotten, because it is a great modern film. And I state again, one of my big soapboxes now is because they said from the very beginning they didn't want any CGI in this, they didn't want green screen in this, they didn't want that. So yes, there is a little bit because you're dealing with outer space. For those of you who aren't familiar, why are you not familiar with Project Hail Mary? It was an incredible novel that got all of this praise, turned into an audiobook, which is my personal favorite audiobook of all time, and now turned into an incredibly great movie that's got a lot of press and was very well touted when it came out. But it's a genuinely great cinematic film that doesn't pander, that doesn't give into a lot, that uses practical effects, even down to, everybody should know this, there's a surprise cast character in it He says it in the trailer. There's an alien. He meets an alien because he has that great line, almost like The Martian. Again, it's Andy Weir and what he does best. He goes, so I met a Martian, which is cool. And he didn't eat me, which was even better. But it's a very strong movie, and I hope it stays recognized for it. One of the best science fiction in a while. It's really good.
Cool.
But that's what I got to say about it. I would not recommend your Salem's Lot, but I would highly recommend my Project Hail Mary.
Well, and I'm glad that Andy's had 2 hits now with what he's writing, because he's a self-published indie writer like myself.
It was really interesting. There's a great, and you would probably like it because it doesn't really give anything away. He appeared on Neil deGrasse Tyson's podcast, and I watched it, and it was really great. Obviously, he's been on there before, but I didn't look up those. But one of the things he was, because Neil deGrasse was saying, oh, blah, 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 don't be all humble, Andy, because you're this huge published author. And he goes, I didn't start out that way. I didn't start out with a publisher. I started out with Kindle Unlimited or whatever is the way he said it.
That's how I read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, way back when.
Yeah. And he was talking about how happy he was that 2 of his novels have been turned into incredibly great films. And deGrasse goes, how many have you written? He goes, 3. And he goes, oh, so 2 of your 3 have been turned into. So yeah, but they just announced Artemis is going to be turned into a film, even though that is not a really good book. I read that book.
They're doing it because he's hot.
Yeah. Somebody's doing it because he's hot right now. And it also has a female protagonist, not a male, which will also be good at this time in our culture. So there we go. I was in space and you were in a haunted town.
Yeah. If we're going to go with segues, they're going to go with mine because it's Stephen King.
That's right. Perfect.
And welcome to the show, because we are doing a redux for you. This is one of those that we did way back before we were doing video, and we decided it would be appropriate to visit it again, especially since David directed the show last year.
I did.
Or earlier this year?
Earlier this year.
Yeah, earlier this year. We're doing Misery from 1990. It was originally our season 2, episode 15 episode. It's directed by Rob Reiner, screenplay by William Goldman, based on a novel by Stephen King. For those of you that don't know, a brief synopsis. Basically, you've got Paul Sheldon, who is a novelist who is up in the mountains finishing a book at a cabin, and he has a little routine he does whenever he finishes a book. He has a cigarette because he's a former smoker. And he has a glass of champagne. It's the expensive stuff, too, isn't it?
Dom Perignon.
Yeah. And he leaves the cabin driving foolishly fast in a Mustang on snowy roads and goes flying off a cliff and is rescued by his number 1 fan, one Annie Wilkes, who is a former nurse, and she is helping nurse him back to health. He assumes while they're in the midst of a snowstorm, but then slowly begins to realize that, no, she's crazy, and she is holding him hostage.
Yep.
His book series that she's such a fan of is Misery. The character's name is Misery Chastain, and it's a series of romance novels, and the last of which comes out while he is being held prisoner. And what she doesn't know is that he has killed off the character and intends to write no more. And when she finds out, she gets pissed and decides she's going to keep him there. She destroys the book, makes him burn the book that he has written in its place, which is not a Misery novel, and makes him start writing Misery's Return. And it all becomes a game of cat and mouse, and how is Paul going to get out of this predicament? With a few secondary characters, it is mainly just a tour de force between James Caan and Kathy Bates, who won an Oscar for the film. What do you want to say about this movie?
There's so much to say about this movie. I think it's a great, I can speak to it from what I just mentioned with Project Hail Mary. This is another incredibly well done adaptation of a novel. I think there are some ways where it's better than the novel, and there are some ways where a couple of the changes I'm going, wish you kind of had stuck with the novel, but I don't mind what you did thing as far as the adaptation goes. I've naturally done a lot of research on not only the movie, but the play and also the novel, the original novel. And not just the play itself, the Broadway version of the play, but also a couple of other versions, productions that were mounted of it. And an earlier version of it that I found that they did in England before William Goldman did his version of it, which is much more like the novel in that there's a lot more of the drug addiction element in it.
In the another play version?
In the first play version that came
Okay.
out, which came out in mid-90s. Before
Yeah, I read where there was an option to do one. I didn't know that it got completed. I thought that they didn't complete it until the one that had Bruce Willis and what's her face.
No, they did it and mounted it in a couple of places in England. It was one in England, one in America, because I think it was an English playwright, if I remember correctly. Anyway, I read that one, and it was a very unique take on it, because if you think about it, the novel was written, the movie came out, the movie is based on the novel, this play came out, it's based on the novel, but William Goldman's play is based on the movie. It is heavily from the movie.
Okay,
Because
Goldman wrote the play too.
Yes, because he wrote the screenplay as well. But, okay, so much to say. Incredible performances. Really, to me, it solidified Rob Reiner as an amazing director of actors and of whatever topic he picked. Because he'd done Stand By Me before this, right? This was, I think...
Stand By Me was before this. It was
This
in the
was
late 80s. Or actually, it may have been the early 80s. I think it was
Yeah, I
the
think
mid
this-
80s because the book came out in 83, so that movie probably came out around 85.
Yeah, I think this was like his... Although this was the first Castle Rock movie, really, of Stephen King, I think it was the third or fourth film he had done, I think.
This
Let me
is the
check my
first
notes.
Castle Rock production. The Stand By Me is set in Castle Rock, I'm pretty sure, or at least they talk
Right,
about
but it's
Castle
not
Rock.
their production facility. It's not their...
No.
Castle Rock
Rob
Productions.
started the production company after Stand By Me and named it Castle Rock. Yes. It's a little confusing.
So I'm trying to see, look at my notes real quick just to see what...
We usually talk about what our first experience was, and I can't even remember, but I'm pretty sure I saw this with my mother in a theater because we would have gone to see this, I'm pretty sure, in 1990.
I remember seeing it in a theater, and I remember being blown away by it. I thought it was incredibly good.
Oh, and there's moments where you literally jump because it's scary in places too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So directing, so Spinal Tap, which I had watched by this time, and I remembered it. The Sure Thing is what he did second. Stand By Me is what he did third, which is still one of my favorite, and I think one up there is, if not the, close to the best adaptation of a Stephen King work ever. Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery. So 6 films and 6, with the exception maybe of The Sure Thing, 6 really great movies and vastly different genres.
But all of them got really decent cred, even The Sure Thing. They were all really well-respected films.
But talk about the way we talk about the key elements and influences and everything else. It just occurred to me a big key to this movie, not necessarily this movie, but an offshoot key, Rob Reiner and Richie Cunningham.
Ron Howard.
Look at their cadre of movies.
It's
and
incredible.
all the different genres and and both of them are television actors who decided they wanted to direct.
That came from sitcoms. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. But yeah, so going back to your topic, sorry, I keep divulging. I don't remember the first time I saw it. I do remember owning it on VHS and watching it at least again once or twice there. I remember always being, I think always taken to where I think Reiner wanted us to be, and I mentioned this to my acting cast, of seeing James Caan that we had known as this Brian Piccolo, Michael Corleone, big, huge, athletic, big guy, stay in a bed for 75% of this movie.
Yeah.
And this woman we had never seen before, but knew she was a Broadway actress, become one of the best villains ever put on film ever, period.
Yeah,
And
she's on those lists of number 60 and 100 greatest villains of American cinema history or whatever. Hannibal Lecter. Yeah.
yes. And in doing research for the play and working with the cast and everything else, finding stuff like interviews with Kathy Bates, where she states again that adage that Annie doesn't think she's a villain. She thinks she's doing the right thing. She thinks she's doing what's necessary. She has her own
she's going to
moral
give misery
code.
back to the readers.
Yeah, she's a total sociopath, but she doesn't see that as being bad.
Of course,
I
she
do
did kill
miss-
babies and other things before she lost her job as a nurse.
Yes, killed her father. It's rumored she killed her father, highly hinted at, in both the novel and the movie, that she killed her father, that she killed her rival in nursing school, that she killed one other person, and then started killing babies.
Nuts.
You know what I think it tapped into? I love Nightmare on Elm Street because it taps into that thing of don't fall asleep. If you fall asleep, you die. And I kind of parallel that with the weeping angels in Doctor Who. But in this one, it's that obsessive love person that can smile. She can say the most sweetest, nice, innocent things while she's doing something really physically horrible to you. And to make her a nurse, for King to have made her a nurse, which is the one that does, oh, bend over, sweetie, this won't hurt, or whatever kind of attitude or thought, is so creepy to me. It is just, yeah.
You mentioned Rob Reiner, which is a strong part of the film, but one of the reasons this movie works is the collaboration of folks.
Oh,
You've
gosh,
got
yes.
Rob Reiner directing, Stephen King, and William Goldman doing the script. William Goldman, he's probably Hollywood's best screenwriter ever so far, I think. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would strongly agree with that.
He mentioned The Princess Bride. He did The Princess Bride as well as Marathon Man, which is a movie that we can cover now because it is a thriller that I have on the list. I just haven't picked it yet. Yeah, he's a great writer. I don't know if you realize this, but do you know who the director of photography was, the cinematographer was on this, the DP?
I don't have it in front of me, no.
Barry Sonnenfeld, the guy
yes,
that brought us the
that's
Men
right.
in Black movies.
Yeah.
So even though he wasn't big at the time, he went on to become that way. Other people were considered before Reiner. George Royhill was at one point considered to do the movie. I don't know what happened there because George is a really good director too, but I don't recall him ever doing something this scary. Do you?
And I think in research, the thing with Royhill was it was a contractual thing. He was contracted.
Okay.
But then
Because
had to
him
back out because of the
and
schedule.
Goldman would be solid, I would think.
Yeah, I think they would have. Well, I also think we have to mention the collaboration because Warren Beatty was attached for months and months.
A long time. He was wasn't he trying to develop it even maybe? I can't remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was working not only with the screenplay, but also Reiner wanted him to play Paul.
Yeah.
He wanted him to play the lead. And he would never say yes or no. He just kept collaborating with him. But he's the one that came up with the whole escape attempts stuff. Because in the novel, that's not really there.
Well,
There's
in the
only
novel,
one
he becomes more of a drug addict.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there's much more of a parallel between the novel he's writing and what's happening in real life with Annie in the novel. In the movie, it's much more of exactly what Warren Beatty said, which was, if I was him, I would be figuring out every possible way I could to get out of this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which gives it the Hitchcock twist, where
Correct.
the suspense and stuff. Before we move on to cast, did you want to mention any scenes in particular?
Oh, yeah. Well, I love the opening. I love the way it's done with the extreme close-ups of the match lighting and the champagne being poured, and then him throwing a snowball and hitting the tree and then going And the way that's
Much
all
too
done,
fast down a mountain.
yes, but the way that's all done during the credit sequence, essentially, which was cool and a neat idea. I think to
Well,
button,
and
you know,
it ends with the crash, and I think it says directed by Rob Reiner above the
yeah,
crashed
with
car.
the
That's
as
yeah,
the wheel starts spinning,
yeah.
stops spinning, yeah, and the to bookend that, the ending. I think the add-on ending here, although I think the novel ending is much scarier and better, I think this was an adequate, scary post-climax
PTSD.
scare. It's not the hand coming out of the grave like in Carrie or whatever, but the fact that
It's
he is
subtle.
still
It's him
haunted by
seeing her
her.
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So in
don't
the
remember the novel ending. What's the novel ending?
in the novel, he actually goes to meet with his publisher and does all that, and she's urging him strongly to write his biography, and he's going, I don't want to. And he goes back home, and when he goes into his apartment, he's attacked by Annie and almost killed and knifed to death, and then wakes up and he's on the floor of his living room having a PTSD nightmare. And he alludes to the fact that it's been happening a lot more lately, and
I
he
don't
doesn't
remember
know if
that
he'll
at all.
ever be able to get a handle on it. And so it's really cool that he has this PTSD stress associated with it. They hint at it in the movie, which is really good. In the play version, which I don't know if you've ever seen, there's actually a final scene with Paul at the premiere of Misery's Return. He's on the book circuit, and he's in New York. And he gives this
Yeah, because he burns it in the movie.
great monologue about writers and what writers go through, because the whole parallel in the novel, a little bit in the movie, but a lot more in the play, and I think that's because William Goldman had the luxury of being able to do it, is the fact that Annie does make Paul a better writer. He was a hack writing the mystery things. He finally did his other novel, which we never know, we never see any of, but supposedly he thought it was his best work. But halfway through writing Misery Returns, he realizes, with Annie's coaxing and the fact that she looks at script pages and then goes, no, you can't do this, Paul, do something else, fix it, blah, blah, blah.
It's a cheat.
It's a cheat. You're cheating.
Yeah.
And instead
He didn't get out of the cock-a-doodie car.
the cock-a-doodie car. But so that's what kind of in the play he mentions. He says, I know I'm a better writer because of what happened to me and everything else. And as he starts talking, all of a sudden behind him in the shadows, Annie steps out and he sees her, and you realize that he's just seeing that in his mind and trying, but he ends with, all we can do is just go forward, right? That's all anybody can do is just go on. And then it goes to black. And that's how
cool.
the play ends,
Yeah.
which is really cool.
It's very theatrical.
You say scenes. What are yours?
I like the scenes where in the beginning, she, like you said, she's all cheerful and excited because she's a fan. And then I like where you just subtly see things. It's not even subtle, but it's like all of a sudden you're like, something is not right. Like when she comes in and it's raining and she looks like she has been through shit. And
Oh, yeah.
she just says, sometimes the rain gives me the blues. And she turns around, just walks out of the room. And I'm like, whoa, that was really good. or
The
when
one
she
I
comes
like
in
is
after
when
he's
she
killed.
talks about the pig. She talks about, she named her pig Misery, and she goes, sometimes in the morning I'll just go out there and sit with her and we'll just talk and talk. And I'm like, holy God.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, the whole scene, like you said, with the escape when he gets out of with the wheelchair the first time, to me is one of the most suspenseful things I've seen since a Hitchcock movie. And we'll get into it in Keys, but Rob Reiner was determined to make a Hitchcock film when he made this. And he's rolling around in this chair that's too big. He's going to knock something over. At one point, he knocks a little figurine off and catches it before it breaks on the floor, puts it back, but he doesn't put it back the right way. And you know she's going to notice. But he still gets back in the room in time and gets whatever it is down his pants. I can't remember if that's the same time he gets out. But anyway, any of the times that he sneaks out, very suspenseful.
Yeah, all the plants work. The plant with the penguin figurine, the plant with the drugs, capsule.
Yeah, because he
The
grabs
plant
some
with,
pills. He's gonna, yeah,
the plant with the actual pig figurine, the metal one that's on the floor that he uses to actually kill her at the very end.
yeah.
The fact that we plant it in one of his escapes too. So yeah, I agree with you. I think the suspense moments work. Of course, you can't mention Misery without everybody talking about the scene that they all remember, which is the
Right.
Hogwarts, which is well filmed, shot, well done. It makes you cringe every time you watch it. But to me, a couple of scenes that I really like, totally fabricated. They are not in the novel. They are not in the play. But the sheriff and his wife and just their relationship. I mean, basically
Yeah.
there's 5 scenes with them, if you count his last scene, which is also dramatic and scary and good. Although in the book, it's a lot worse.
Oh, in the book, it's various cops that she kills, and one of them she
Yes.
runs over with a lawnmower.
With a lawnmower. Yes. It's like the first scene with him in the office when the agent calls, him and his wife in the car, him and his wife in bed when he's reading the Misery book and everything. Just their relationship, his tenacity, his slowly closing in on what happens. All of that is really good Hitchcockian stuff too, that I like.
Yeah, and that character really doesn't even exist in the book, and it's a great character.
Great ad by Goldman.
All of
He
the
is in the
secondary
play.
characters are great.
That character is in the play, but very briefly. He's not.
Okay.
He's basically put there to have Andy kill somebody.
Body count.
Body count. But yeah.
We can
so those
move
are
on to
scenes.
cast since we're talking about cast if you want. Every scene in this movie is good to me, so it's kind of hard to narrow them down. I was thinking like when he needs her to go again and he tells her that she bought the wrong kind of paper and she gets all pissed off and slams that ream of paper down on his legs.
Oh yeah, Mr. Man.
I'll go get your paper.
Yeah.
Okay, first off, we have, and I do have a lot of information about these people. I'll try to be brief. James Caan plays Paul Sheldon, the lead. He's been around forever. He's fantastic. He was in The Godfather. He was in Brian's Song, which I think you mentioned. I remember him for being the punk in Lady in a Cage with Olivia de Havilland, tormenting a lady in an elevator in her home. God, that's a great movie.
Wow.
It's like Robert Aldrich, I think. If not, it should be.
Okay.
And then we last saw him in Rollerball, season 5, episode 33.
Yeah.
Several people were offered this role, and they all have something pretty much in common with not doing it. Jack Nicholson was offered the role, but passed because he didn't want to do another movie based on a King novel after what he had experienced with Stanley Kubrick. Can't blame him there.
You think? Yeah.
Even 10 years later. According to William Goldman's book for screenplays, it was offered to Warren Beatty, Robert De Niro, Michael Douglas, Richard Dreyfuss, Harrison Ford, Morgan Freeman, Mel Gibson, Gene Hackman, Dustin Hoffman, William Hurt twice, Kevin Kline, Al Pacino, Robert Redford, Denzel Washington, and Bruce Willis, all of whom declined. However, Willis went on to play the role on Broadway with, I cannot think of her name, the woman from
Laurie
Roseanne.
Metcalf.
Laurie Metcalf.
Laurie Metcalf.
Yeah. And I would think that would be a really good cast. Also, according to William Goldman, Richard Dreyfuss almost accepted the role and regretted turning it down. He almost accepted it, but because he regretted turning down When Harry Met Sally. And he didn't want to disappoint Rob Reiner again. He had previously, as you mentioned, was in Stand By Me. So he had done a movie with Reiner before, but Dreyfuss didn't like the script. And I'm like, oh, Dreyfuss is an idiot. Anyway, William Goldman, who wrote the script, said that the studio approached every man in Hollywood to play the part. He said all of them said no because men don't want to be passive. They hate to be eunuchized. Is that the word, eunuchized?
Yep. Eunuchized.
By their female co-stars. And he said the only person who never said no was Warren Beatty, but he just never said yes either. Jeff Daniels.
You said you mentioned screenplay with Dreyfuss. I think the screenplay may have been in a different state than what we finally saw too, though.
Oh, probably.
Because remember, Warren Beatty worked for months and months on it, rewriting and changing and working with Goldman.
Yeah.
So it may have been that sometimes these guys were offered something and they went, oh, so I stay in bed for 90% of this and she gets out and I kill her at the end? I don't want to do that.
And Beatty is also a director, so he would
Yeah.
know better how to work on a script than Dreyfuss probably.
Oh,
But
definitely.
Jeff Daniels, Ed Harris, John Hurd, Robert Klein, and Ed O'Neill were also considered for Paul Sheldon. But James Caan was not Reiner's first choice because he was turned down first by Robert Redford. Then came Warren Beatty and William Hurt and Richard Dreyfuss and all those others I mentioned. But now that we've seen this film, you really can't imagine anybody else doing it.
No.
Caan is perfect in this role.
The closest I can think of is William Hurt playing it. But Hurt doesn't have the physicality that we subjectively bring into this movie.
See, the
Like you
closest
said,
I could
you
think
saw-
of is Bruce Willis.
Yeah. You saw James Caan as a bully and as a godfather and as a football player. And then suddenly you're seeing this person whose body is crushed and he's having to be force-fed soup and all this. So, yeah, there's a lot of association.
Yeah. I don't know if you knew this, but in the 1990s, he kicked a cocaine habit he had for 20 years.
Wow.
That's a long time to be on coke. And despite not getting along during the shoot, he and Kathy Bates became really good friends after the film. It's because we've talked about this before. They both have different acting styles. He's more improv, she's more rehearsal.
Correct.
So they had a little bit of a clash other than that. And she was kind of green. She had done Come Back to the Five and Dime and maybe another movie, but she had not done much when she did this movie.
And that says a lot, going back to your collaboration again, that says a lot about Reiner. And it says a lot about them, these actors individually, and the fact that they were each willing to concede a little bit to the other one to get what they wanted done.
Yeah.
Or to work with their process. Kathy Bates was constantly asking for more rehearsal. James Caan was constantly asking for less.
Less. Yeah, exactly. She was heartbroken upon hearing of Caan's passing in 2022 and said working with him in this movie was one of the best experiences of her career. So she came around.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kathy, we know from Dolores Claiborne, who Stephen King actually wrote the book for after he saw her in this movie. But she was also in movies like Titanic and Fried Green Tomatoes, which I think she did after this because she got nominated for that as well.
Correct.
Several people were offered this role as well. Bette Midler turned it down because she thought it was too violent. She later called herself stupid, which sounds like Bette Midler. Angelica Houston was offered the roles and was interested, but she couldn't because of conflicts with The Grifters, which was filming at the same time.
Okay.
Jessica Lange and Barbara Streisand were up for the roles. I can't see either one of them doing it. Mary Tyler Moore wanted it. I can't see Mary Tyler Moore doing it. She's not strong enough. She's a strong actress. She doesn't have the body strength. I think Annie has to have some strength to throw a man over her shoulders and walk up in the snow.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing that is weird about Laurie Metcalf being cast.
True.
Because King himself said that whoever you cast has to be a larger woman, has to be not farm bred. But
I guess they could pad her, though. You could pad
they
someone
didn't.
to look heavier.
She's kind of skinny in the Broadway play. But anyway, go ahead.
Speaking of which, Roseanne Barr and Rosie O'Donnell were both considered to play Annie Wilkes. Roseanne went on to play her in an SNL parody. And then as we mentioned her on-screen sister, Laurie Metcalf, went on to play her on Broadway. Now, that being said, I don't see Roseanne Barr doing any acting role, but I could see Rosie O'Donnell doing this part in a heartbeat. I think she would have been great at it.
Yep.
Kathy was the first woman to win an Academy Award for Best Actress in a Horror Thriller for her role. So I've mentioned this before. We've been on an Oscar kick with last year and stuff in Silence of the Lambs. This was a horror movie that won Best Actress. She has said Dolores Claiborne is her favorite film role, even though she won an Oscar for this one. And she was born in Memphis, Tennessee. I did not realize she was from Tennessee.
Yep.
Lastly, King was quite impressed with her performance. Again, I said he wrote Dolores Claiborne for her, but he also wrote another role for her because he liked her so much. Do you know what role that is?
Another role that he wrote for her?
Yeah.
No.
In his original novel of The Stand, there's a character named Ray Flowers. And hearing that Bates wanted to be involved in the Stand miniseries, he rewrote the part as a woman, just so Bates could play it uncredited.
Really?
Yeah, she's in the miniseries, The Stand, just a little cameo.
I don't remember that at all, but that's cool.
Yeah, it is. Now these secondary actors who are just as good. These guys are great. Richard Farnsworth plays, what's the sheriff's name? Buster?
Buster.
He was a stuntman for 30 years because I was like, where is this guy from? I've never seen him before. He doubled for Kirk Douglas, Henry Fonda, Montgomery Clift, Steve McQueen, and Roy Rogers. He is the co-founder of the Stuntman Association, which was formed in 1961. He worked for Sam Peckinpah, Cecil B. DeMille, John Ford, Howard Hawks, Henry Hathaway, Raoul Walsh, and David Lynch.
Yep.
His last film was The Straight Story, which was a David Lynch film I have not seen. He died in 2000, October of 2000, in Lincoln, New Mexico by suicide. He shot himself because he had terminal bone cancer. So it's a sad ending for such a great performance.
And I think this was one of his last really great film roles. He did a lot of television.
He did a lot of television. Yeah.
But he was always really good. He just had a really cool accent to him. He had a really
dry.
cool demeanor.
He's funny as hell because he's not trying to be funny. He's just dry.
Very well said.
Yeah.
I remember him in The Natural. He was the ghost coach character in The Natural. So
I'm a bad host because I don't have a picture of anybody but Kathy Bates and James Caan, or I would show you a picture of him. And speaking of which, the woman who plays his Buster's wife, Virginia, is Franciscan, who I have adored for a long time. She is very much a Stephen King actress. She's been in a few Stephen King movies. As a matter of fact, the one that comes to mind is The Mist, which we did season 6, episode 14. We last saw her, though, in Outland with Sean Connery in last season's episode 20.
Yep.
This character was created entirely for the film. It's not in the novel at all. And I mentioned this when we covered her in Outland. I was like, where did she come from? She was nominated 7 times for a Tony Award, and she won twice for performances in The Good Doctor and once in The Heiress. Other shows she appeared in were Equus on Golden Pond, Angel, and You Can't Take It With You. So she's a Broadway actress.
Yeah, I'm sure she and Kathy got along on set, even though they don't have a scene together.
Oh, I bet you're right.
Because they could share theater stories. Because she is definitely a theater veteran. Definitely, Frances Durnigan.
She died in 2023 at the age of 93. She worked up until 2014 and had 6 kids. She had a lot of kids. And then lastly, actually not quite lastly, but lastly importantly, is Lauren Bacall plays Marcia Sindel, Paul's agent. Who thought, why don't we get Lauren Bacall?
I know.
Because she is amazing and she's such Hollywood royalty. She was in To Have, all these movies I've watched recently, by the way, on Turner Classic. She was in To Have and to Have Not, The Big Sleep, and Written on the Wind, mostly with Humphrey Bogart, who she ended up being married to.
Yeah, I thought it was that's a coup cast to have her even in that little short cameo. She's only in 3 scenes, which is great.
And I don't know if Rob knew her or knew somebody that knew her. Hey, my dad's Carl Reiner. You want to be in my movie?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. But at one point, Carol Burnett was considered for the role, and Vicki Lawrence was considered for the role of Annie Wilkes.
Yeah, no. No, hell no.
Vicky, I don't think Vicky could have done that. Now, Carol could have probably done it, but I don't think Vicky could have.
Yeah.
I was just doing a little research on Lauren Bacall, and I didn't realize that after Humphrey Bogart died in 1957, they had 2 kids. She married Jason Robards. Did you know that?
Really?
I didn't know that at all. And they were married until they divorced in 1969, and they had 1 kid. So she had 2 kids with Humphrey Bogart and 1 kid with Jason Robards.
Interesting.
She died in 2014, and she voiced an episode of The Family Guy that very year. So she worked pretty much until she died.
Wow.
Yeah, she's a great actress. And then lastly, there's a cameo in this movie. There's a state of Colorado police chief in one scene, and it's J.T. Walsh, who is also no longer with us. He died young. But I was like, I know him. Where do I know him from? And there he was.
Great actor. Yep.
Briefly, awards, because this movie won a slew of them. I mentioned she was the first to win for an actress in a horror thriller. She won an Academy Award. It's the only one the movie was nominated for. However, it was nominated for 5 Saturns, including film, actor, actress, supporting actress for Sternhagen, and writing. Silence of the Lambs took everything that year pretty much because they came out at the same time. So Misery kind of lost a lot except for Annie Wilkes, except for Kathy Bates. Bates went on to win a ton of other Best Actress awards on the circuit, including Golden Globes, Chicago Film Critics, and all of that. One thing that is really surprising to me is this movie is not on the 1001 movies you must see before you die list. That is
odd.
Considering that Total Recall and Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer are, and they came out the same year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not right. I'm starting to lose a little faith in old Steven Snyder over there.
Yeah. She needs to reevaluate some stuff.
Yeah. But that's what I got for casts and awards. And I've got a ton of trivia. So
I've got some production stuff too that just came out with research and stuff, of course. But so production wise, and you probably have a lot of this in your notes too, but production wise, Scheineman, who was the executive producer, actually read the novel on an airplane. And when he landed, he called up Rob saying, we need to do this movie. We need to find it.
Who?
Scheineman, I think his first name is Mark. He's one of the producers.
Oh, okay. He's like a friend of Rob's.
No, he's the co-producer that worked on Stand By Me with him and Princess Bride and helped form Castle Rock.
Okay.
With him.
So he's like a partner.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when Rob Reiner approached Stephen King, he said he would sell him the rights, with the caveat being that Reiner had to either produce it or direct it. He couldn't just farm it off to somebody else. And that was what he was going to do. He was going to produce forever, and they were looking for directors. And finally, he had to step up and do it just because of the timing of where they were. But he really didn't want to direct it to begin with, which I thought was really interesting too.
Yeah, because it's one of his best films.
Yeah. And like you said, he went on to watch a bunch of Hitchcock to prepare for it and to see how to craft suspense and how to craft a good, quote, horror movie. Trivia. Oh, did you know? You probably do because you're such a fan, a super fan, by the way. One of Stephen King's first typewriters was missing an N, and that's why he wrote it into this story.
I think I do remember that. I don't know how. If people out there have read the book, every N in those pages is written in, and I'm like, how did they do that? I guess it has something, right? Yeah, man. Well, he sells millions of books.
And I don't know if we do it enough. I think we do, but maybe not. But if we do, I'm doing it again. If not, I'm doing it now. Encourage you to go watch Misery, go watch a movie, but go read the book too. This novel is really good, and there's a lot of differences that are not in the film. Like it's a lot gorier. The novel is much gorier than the movie.
Yes. For those of you that don't know, she amputates his foot with an axe or a hatchet. I think it's an axe.
It's an axe. Yeah.
Yeah.
She
And
cuts
there's
his
blood. She has to
foot off.
cauterize it, so she sets it on fire, and there's blood everywhere. Yeah, it's very
Yep.
gory.
And then later on, she cuts his thumb off with a carving knife, one of those mechanical carving knives that moms and dads used to use to carve the turkey. She cuts his thumb off, and later on that same week serves it to him as his birthday candle on his birthday cake.
I've got to read that book again. I don't remember that.
Yeah,
That's
it is
funny.
a lot worse. There's also a lot of drug in the book. Paul becomes deeply addicted to the painkillers she has him on, and it leads to hallucinations and fantasies and all kinds of stuff. And he uses that as part of the Misery Returns novel, with the bees and the drugs and the the natives that they go to in the South Seas and all that. So it's pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
a lot of the book is his overcoming that addiction and saving those pills to try to drug her
Correct.
with,
And
which is
save
another
himself.
great scene in the movie. He
Oh
worked
yeah.
so hard to get those pills into that drink that she's going to have when they're having their little romantic dinner, and then she fucking knocks that glass over, and you're like,
Yep. Yep.
yeah,
It's
it's
so good.
bad.
So good.
Back to your play that you said happened in London. What I have is that it was almost turned into a Broadway play with Julia Roberts as Annie Wilkes, which to me is just ridiculous. King vetoed the idea because Annie, in his words, was a brawny woman who could sling a guy around, not a pixie. However, in 2015, the adaptation was produced and critically acclaimed, starring Bruce Willis and Laurie Metcalf. So I don't,
Mm-hmm.
that's the only thing I have about a play, but I'm guessing maybe they did it on the West End and had people from England in it. I don't know.
Let me see if I can
Why you
do
do
some other
that?
your trivia, and I'll see if I can find it real quick. Yep.
Sure. I'm not going to mention all that about horror movie actors. We've already done that. Misery is Martin Scorsese's favorite Rob Reiner film. We always joke about how Martin Scorsese loves horror movies but never directs them. After refusing to speak about his motivations for writing Misery for 2 decades, Stephen King finally came out and stated that it was about his battle with substance abuse. Kathy Bates' character is a representation of his dependency on drugs and what it did to his body, making him feel alone and separated from everything while hobbling any attempts he made at escape. In his statement, he said he did not come out with it at the time because he was not ready and because he was afraid it would detract from the story. So 20 years later, he said, yeah, this is about my addiction to drugs,
Interesting.
which is why that plays so heavily into the novel, as you mentioned.
So in 19, Simon Moore is the name of the writer, wrote
Okay.
and directed a play based on Stephen King's novel Misery. The play premiered in London's Criterion Theatre December 17th, 1992. It ran for 6 months. The
Wow.
production starred Sharon Glass as Annie Wilkes
Nice.
and Bill Patterson as Paul Sheldon.
Bill Patterson. Who's Bill
It was
Patterson?
also produced at the Gables Stage in Coral Gables, Florida, directed by Joseph Adler, who also went on to do a bunch of Broadway stuff. And in September of the same year, Alan Cohen directed a production of it at King's Head Theater, starring Susan Pendelgan and Matthew Prade.
Is
The
it?
big deal about, go ahead.
Oh, never mind. You already said William Goldman wrote the Broadway one. I was wondering if it was the same writer. It couldn't have
Yes,
been.
no, Goldman went back and wrote the Broadway version. But yeah, Simon did the first ever version. William Goldman's really didn't come out until much later.
I
As far
can
as
tell
a
you
play
right now,
adaptation.
Sharon Gless is great casting. I could have seen her in the movie too.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So he did this in 92. William Goldman's adaptation for Broadway, or actually it went to Bucks County Playhouse is where it started. And it was also produced by Castle Rock Entertainment, one of their first plays they ever produced.
Interesting.
But it didn't come out till 2012.
Huh.
So almost 20 years later before we got that.
That's funny.
Yeah, and the Simon Moore one is much more, of course, it's much more inspired by the novel because that was the only thing that was out. So it had a lot of fantasy sequences with misery. Misery is actually a character in it. You actually see what Paul is envisioning in the play,
like
in the
acting
novel.
out the romance novel or whatever.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you see a lot more of the drug addiction, the drug hallucination, all that. And he was adamant that no matter how you had to work it out for the stage, yes, you did do the entire amputation, which is a good segue to a trivia thing. You know, that was a big bone of contention between Goldman and Rob Reiner.
Yeah, Goldman
Because,
wanted it in there.
yes,
Yeah.
and
And Rob was
so
like,
much
no.
so that he actually stormed off set and left and didn't come back for the last few days of shooting and everything. That was near the end of the production.
Until he saw the scene where she does the hobble, and then he's never mind, I was wrong. This is
Until
fine.
they went to the premiere and he saw it and went, okay, yeah, you're right. Because Reiner kept telling him, if we show Annie do that, we will lose any sympathy that character ever had.
Yeah.
No one will ever buy into her again. And Rob really wanted her to stay that kind of ambiguous sort of, she's dealing with her own logic. It's her own thing. She's not really
Speaking
a
of
villain.
which, did you realize that the weapons used by the villains in The Shining and Misery are switched in the films?
Knife and axe, yeah.
It's an axe and a mallet. In the movie,
Axe and
she
a mallet.
uses a sledgehammer, which is very close to a mallet, and Jack uses an axe in The Shining when it's the exact opposite in the books. It's a croquet mallet in The Shining and an axe in Misery.
Yep.
That's fun trivia. I have one last trivia thing that I find extremely funny. And it's that at one screening, Stephen King was enjoying himself so much that he yelled out, "Watch out, she's got a gun," during the climax. I would have loved to have been in that theater.
She's got a gun. I could hear him say that.
She's
Yeah.
got a gun.
I do think there's only a couple of misses I think the movie makes before we get into keys. One of them is when Paul, his second outing is what we call it. He gets out and he's a little bit healthier and everything else. He goes to the kitchen. He ends up getting a knife and
Yes.
he hides it in his sling. He can probably end up, his goal is to stab Annie with it and kill her. Like
He's
you said.
practicing pulling it
Yeah.
out.
And as he keeps pulling it out, it goes shing like a sword every
Like
time
it
he
would do
pulls it
that.
out, even though he's got a cloth sling over his arm. That one and the final jump scare, I do think it's a little bit of a cheat in the movie because that's not in the novel or the play. In novel and the play, he beats Annie with the typewriter. She gets up once. He ends up gouging her eyes, feeding the burning manuscript to her, and throttling her on the floor so much that it kills her.
Yeah.
And that's how the novel is, and that's how the play is. But then in the movie, he goes crawling out of the room and over to across the hall to the next room, and suddenly Annie jumps up and leaps on his back,
grabs him.
everything else.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit
one
of
of
a
those. It's the
jump
Hollywood.
scares that.
It's like the Hollywood thing, where it's like you can't do it without doing it or whatever. It's stupid. But
Yeah.
there was something else I was going to say, and now I can't remember. Oh, no biggie. You were talking about the knife. Oh, that's it. The knife. I would have been like, she knew that penguin was turned around. She would notice that knife is not there. But by then, I think she did because she immediately comes in and knocks him out, doesn't she? And ties him to the bed. Yes, that's right before the hobbling, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he wakes up and she's tied him to the bed. Yeah, she knocks him out before then.
But doesn't she knock him out once she realizes he has the knife because he starts reaching for it? And she says, "Is this what you're looking for?"
Yeah, but he never could use it. That's the thing. That's the same scene. The hobbling scene is the same. That's the same scene.
Okay. But what I'm saying is that if she noticed that little penguin was turned wrong, she would notice that knife's gone. And I think that also led up to reasons for the hobble.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Keys?
Keys. The first one, of course, for this movie, you got to say is the novel because it's so good. But my second one is, this came up during the play too, Scheherazade. which is the whole Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, someone who's kept alive because they're telling the king a story. And that's in the
Oh,
novel a lot, and that's in a little bit in the play, but they don't really touch on it in the movie. But that's really an inspiration for King for what Paul has to do to survive. He is keeping Annie entertained by writing her a chapter at a time, and that's keeping him alive long enough to build up his strength to hopefully either kill her or escape. And it's mentioned in the novel quite a few times.
okay.
Scheherazade.
That's
Yeah.
cool. We mentioned Alfred Hitchcock
Yeah.
because Rob did watch so many Hitchcock movies that James Caan even made fun of him from overhearing him mentioning something like Hitchcock would never do that. But some of the angles are very Sam Raimi. They're like those Scotch angles. It reminds me of both Hitchcock and Sam Raimi. Some of the way the tracking shots go and some of the setups. Just, I don't know. Hitchcock and Sam Raimi is what I want to say.
Quite not as much frenetic moving camera like Raimi does, but
No,
yes, a lot of moving and a lot of cutting between this intense close up of Annie and then a medium back shot of Paul, so he looks really small and
small.
weak and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. Yeah. I've got, of course, Castle Rock, which was the producer of this, which was Rob Reiner's name based on the fictional town that's in a lot of King's books.
Back to those shots where we were talking about Scotch angles, I have Creep Show because there is
Mm,
one scene where I think it may be the scene where she's holding that knife where there's like lightning flashing. And it
hmm.
reminds me of the lighting from Creep Show, where it's like a bright flash of light
Yeah.
and it's done in a single like close up. And it's
I've
also a
got
Stephen King property.
I've got one that I got even I think back when it was on VHS and I saw it. Who's Afraid of Baby Jane? Because
Whatever happened to Baby
that's
Jane?
whatever happened to Baby Jane. Yeah, that's it. Because yeah, I'm going to keep you alive. I'm the one that's going to feed you. You're going to do what I say.
You
That
just
sort of
write the
thing.
checks,
So,
honey, and I will serve you your rats and canaries. Yeah.
what's the one you like? Because I can, Blanche, or whatever. What
Yeah.
was it?
Because I can't. Oh, no. If only I
What was
wasn't
it?
in this wheelchair. But you are, Blanche. You are.
Pacha. Pacha, Blanche.
Yeah, it's very whatever happened to Baby Jane. I never really even thought about that because Joan Crawford's in a wheelchair in that movie
Yeah,
and bound to a bed pretty much.
going to a
Yeah,
bed
yeah,
for a
yeah.
lot of it. Yeah. And every time you think she's going to have some way to get a message out or escape or something, she's thwarted every time.
Yeah. Hers are usually notes passed through the window or whatever because she
Yep.
can't even go downstairs because she's in a wheelchair. I've got season 2 of the show Castle Rock, which was on Hulu.
Hmm.
It served
Yeah.
as a prequel to this and showed Annie, I think, when she was a nurse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before she started murdering. Yeah.
It's been a while since I saw it, but and it never got renewed, so I don't know what happened. Except for
I've
this.
got one that might surprise you. We actually covered this movie. I'd never heard of it before. The Loved Ones.
Oh yeah.
Because again, it's taking somebody prisoner because you love them so much and you want them to marry you and you want them to be with you, blah, blah, blah. That fan obsession or obsession in general, not just fan, but just
Well, yeah,
obsession
except they want to drill holes in his head and put Windex in it.
to help him become a better person and love
A
on her.
sex
Yeah.
slave. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very dead. David, not David. What's his name?
Richard Donner.
Richard Dahmer. I started to say David, but it's Dahmer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got, and I'm going to read this verbatim because I found this interesting. The novel this film is based on has more connections to a neighboring town in his fictional network, and that is Derry, Maine.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a child, Paul Sheldon was friends with Eddie Kasprak, who moved to Boston after the events of It. Misery takes place in the town of Sidewinder, Colorado, near the Overlook Hotel, the setting for The Shining, and the character of Dick Halloran also served in the Army with the father of Mike Hanlon, another character from It. Do you remember me telling you I watched Welcome to Derry and that Dick
Yeah.
Halloran is a character in it and he's in the
He's,
Army?
yeah. You said that.
So I'm like, what? I thought they did that for the series. I didn't realize he did that with the books a long time ago.
Yeah, and I don't remember even doing research for the play. I don't remember Halloran, but I had written down, I highlighted in my version of the book when she mentions Sidewinder, and that's where that horrible stuff happened at that hotel. That's like a line in the novel,
Yeah.
and at the Overlook. And then later on, when Paul is talking about when he was writing the novel he's writing, was when he grew up with all of his friends and one of those was Eddie Kaspbrak. And I thought, what? King,
Yeah.
you're even doing the Dark Tower crap way back then. Anyway,
Yeah.
I've got another one you might like, 10 Cloverfield Lane. Again, it's another one of those I'm being held prisoner against my will thing. But in that one, the villain ends up being right as opposed to being crazy and a lunatic.
I like that movie. I have Richard Bachman because this was originally intended to be a Richard Bachman book. But at the time, Bachman's pseudonym got revealed to be Stephen King, and he had to come out of the closet. And that's why it got published in that 4-book deal in 1986. I don't know if you remember that, but in 1986, It was Misery, It, The Eyes of the Dragon, and The Tommyknockers all came out that year. It was 4 huge books.
Wow.
2 huge ones and 2 regular sized ones. But anyway, Richard Bachman was essentially killed by King back then, but then he has revived him a couple of times with books like The Regulators and Blaze. So he's brought him back a little bit. But this was intended to be a Richard Bachman book.
The last one of my real comparison ones is Obsession, that new movie that came out this spring this year about the guy that it's essentially like Monkey's Paw. He does The Wish, where the girl that he's obsessed with, he hopes she falls in love with him, and she ends up being a stalker and killing his friends and blah, blah, blah. It's a big horror movie that came out. I didn't see it, but
And it was this year or 2025?
in 26. And it's definitely one of those, I'm your biggest fan, which is the cliche line from this movie. And
I think that's all I have. I know there's tons more, but that's all I have in my notes.
the only ones I have are the ones that I just called a list of, because Annie is considered one of the best villains ever created for film, created for novel too, but for film. I went back and looked, and the list is ones that most of these we've covered before. One of them, I couldn't even believe I didn't put on my list originally, but it came up in the play when we were rehearsing, is Bad Seed. Because in the novel and in the play, she does a lot more justification of, like, you go to Annie's big thing with the soup in the movie, and she goes, "See what you made me do?" And in the novel, that's a lot more. When he goes, "Annie, you killed those police officers." She goes, "They made me, Paul. I didn't have a choice. If he hadn't shown up, I wouldn't have had to kill him." And it's her mentality blames them for and the girl in Bad Seed was the same way. It was his fault. Oh, that's why I had to kill him.
That's sociopathic behavior, isn't it? Or psychopath?
Correct.
I think it's sociopath. Yeah.
It's sociopath.
Where it doesn't matter if it affects you, you need to wrong it, or not wrong it, but fix it.
Yeah, it's your own moral code or basing your actions on. And it's like American Psycho, which is on this list. So you've got
I can see that.
Annie Wilkes, you've got American Psycho, No Country for Old Men, the Javier Bardem character, Bad Seed,
what is his name?
the girl in Bad Seed.
Can't remember his name.
You already mentioned Hannibal Lecter from Silence. I don't know the character's name, but the wife in Gone Girl, who's terrifying.
I've never seen that.
Oh, you would like it. It's very Hitchcock, very Vertigo.
Okay.
You would like it. And the last one I've got is Pearl from X and Pearl.
Yes.
All that.
Yes. She is very much like Pearl. That is very good.
She is a good Annie because she'll be smiling the whole time she's stabbing you or whatever.
And I'm going to be the dancer in that musical, so I'm killing you.
Yeah.
So
I
you
want to
don't
be
get the part.
I'm a star.
God, I love that movie.
I guess this is a redux, so we finally have it on video, and I'm glad we do. I hope that all of you guys liked what we did. If you can think of keys that we haven't thought of, let us know. Put it down below. Email us. Let us know these things. Always comment. Any review you can give us on Apple or anything else helps other people find us. We're so glad you're here. If you do what we have, of course, more. We have a Patreon, which has other free tier stuff as well as some paid tier that's very cheap, but also gives you some access to a lot of other stuff, not only our season lists, but also other podcasts that we have, one that's on Classic Trek and one that's on the X-Files, which is really great. And we love doing those for you as well. But Tim, until next time, when we'll be, next week's a big episode.
Rumor has it that next week is our 300th episode.
Woohoo! 300, man.
So what are we going to do to make it special?
What are we going to do? We hope you guys come back and find out.
Yeah.
You can't start the car, John.